Greetings everyone and welcome back. In the previous video we created our employees inputs, and in this video we're going to add the functionality to our change photo button as well as the remove photo button. When we click on the change photo button, we're going to click the hidden input that we created before, and it's going to open our file explorer on our machine, and we're going to select the file that we want for our employees image. So let's go ahead and do that. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to go into my JS file, which is this one here, and here I'm going to have functionality to browse the photo. So I'm going to have this one. It's a comment right here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to have and I'm going to listen on an event here, and the event that I'm going to listen for is the click event. So I'm going to say on click, then I'm gonna have a closure here function. Gonna have a closure here. I'm just going to pass an E for event, that is, and here I'm going to target an ID, and this ID is the ID that we already created. So it's called browse employee photo here. It's employee photo, and there's an underscore like that. So I'm going to listen for click on this event, and what I'm going to do when this ID here, or when this element with the ID is clicked, I'm just going to click the file input that we set the attribute hidden to true. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to extend this click to that input. So let's go ahead and do that. And the input, as we called it, employee photo. If you remember, we called it the employee photo, and that's what we're going to do. And then what we only do is click this input instead, like that. And we can test that out. So let me go back to the application. I'll reload, and then I'll bring in the model again. I'll try to click this one, and as you can see now, it clicks on the hidden part of the input. Now what we're going to do next, we want, when we select a photo here, or we select an image from here, we want to show it on this image placeholder here. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. All right, so here after the click event here, I'm going to have another event. I'm going to listen for another event. On now, this one. Remember, we click on the employee photo button, it clicks on the employee photo input, and the contents of this input's gonna change. So that's what we're going to listen for. We're going to listen for the change on this file input. So I'm gonna say on change, and I'm still going to have another closure here. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just say E, and now what I'm gonna do, I'm going to create another function. This function, I'm going to call it show file. I'm gonna create that in a bit. So, and I'm going to pass the content of this employee photo element here. So I'm going to pass it, and also I'm going to pass another ID called show photo. if you remember, show photo is the ID of the photo input placeholder. If I were to show you that, it's the ID of this placeholder here. So if we could inspect, you see that we have the show photo here as the ID of this element, and that's what we're going to pass down to that function. Sorry, that's what we're going to pass down to this function we're going to create just now. All right, so let's go ahead and create this function. So here I'm going to say function. It's a statement function. So, and it's going to get the file input. And the next thing is the image. And the third thing is the name. So show name. This name is the name of the file that we're going to browse. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have a condition here, an if statement, and I'm gonna check if the file input, the incoming file input has any files in it. So just going to check the first one. So if at all it has a file in it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define a reader here that's going to help us to read the image. And it's gonna be the new file reader. So I'm going to initialize the file reader for us to help us read the image. And I'm going to use the already defined reader here. Say onload. It's gonna be a kosher function. Gonna be a question. I'm just going to say if, and what I'm going to do inside here is just to set the attribute of the image to the file that we're going to receive. So for me to do that, I'm just going to have the incoming image inside here and set the source attribute. So htr, and this one should be the src for source, and then I'm going to set it to the incoming target. So I'm gonna say target and then result of the target like so. Right, and now here I can use the reader to read the URL of the input. So read, and I'm gonna read data as URL, and then I'm going to pass in the file input files, and I'll take the first one again like that. So I'm gonna close that, and after that I could target if we have the element with the ID of show name. Remember, show name is the incoming show name here. If we have this element, then what we're going to say to do, we're going to populate the context of that element with the name of the file that we already have. And for us to get the file name, we're going to use the file input files, and we're going to have the first one. Remember, the index 0 is the first element. So, and here we're going to extract the name of the file that we are dealing with here, like that. So if we have that, we know that we're going to browse the image and put it to the image placeholder. So let's go ahead and test that one out. I'm going to reload the application. So I'm going to reload the application again, and I'm going to bring in the model. I'll try to change the photo here, and that did not work. All right, let me go to my console and see if there is any problem, and there is. Let's see, change the photo here, choose this one. File input is undefined. Let me see where that is. File input. Yeah, and this one should be case sensitive. So file input, it's case sensitive. So let's go ahead and see. I'm going to reload again the page. I'll clear my console. I'll bring in the model. I browse the photo again. Browse reading 0. For input files, should be files. I wrote file by mistake. Should be files. This one should be files like that. The array name is files and not file. So I'm gonna reload the application again, and try this time around should work. We're going to bring in the model. I'll click on the change photo button, and sure enough, it brings us the image that we're looking for. So right, so it means that we can use this button now to change the file that we want to send to the server is our employee profile image. Okay, choose that one or choose this one. Now let's go ahead and work on the remove photo button. That when we click on it, it should remove the image that we already selected. All right, let's go back to our JavaScript file here, and I'm going to have another function which I'll call remove the, I'm just going to call it remove file, and it's going to receive the file itself, and then not file, it's just an ID and the photo. So I want to remove uh, two images from their placeholders. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm just going to have the ID I'm just going to set the source attribute of these to empty. So I'm just going to set the source attribute of this one to empty. So it's htr and src for the source, and then I'm going to just have it as empty. I'll do the same for the other one. You could change them, but I just choose to have them separate like that. And then whenever we call this function, we're going to pass in the IDs that we want to empty. For now, just make them very simple. Don't want to make anything complicated. We'll come to that point at some time in this course. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to listen for the remove photo button click. So I'm going to say I'll listen for the remove employee photo ID. So remove employee photo. So, and it should be an ID. So this one is just going to be remove. And I'm going to listen on click event. So I'm gonna say click, and I'll have my quotient here. Function. I have my closure here, and I will just call it an E, like that. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to send in the data title and data ID the IDs that I want to be empty. So just let the employee or I'm just going to say let the file equals to this. No need even to define a variable. What I'm going to say, I'm just going to call the remove file function directly here, and I'm going to pass this I'm going to pass these values in data attribute. So the first one, it's gonna be the data title, and the other one, it's gonna be the data ID. So ID like that. So if I go back to here and you have the remove, so data ID, change profile, I'm gonna have so when I want to set the source attribute, it's this one. So employee photo, it's gonna be one of them, and the data title, it's gonna be the second one. So this is the first one, and the other one is the show photo. I want to remove this one also. So I'm gonna send those two elements. I will set both of those two element source attribute to empty. First one, the placeholder, and this one I'm going to set its value, the not the source attribute. So for the file, I'm going to set this one to value to empty value, and for the photo I'm going to set the attribute source to empty string. All right, so let's go ahead and try to test that one out. All right, let me bring in the model. I'm going to browse the picture here, bring it in. I try to remove it. It's not going away. It should be going away though. Okay, let's see if we are getting to this event. Click event, so remove employee photo. And here it's called what? Remove employee photo is an ID, data title and data ID. And let me go back here. So just to be sure, I'm going to console log file was photo here. Just to be sure that I'm getting to this function, I'll reload again. I'll bring in my model, which is this file here. I'll remove it, and it's telling me none. It's not having anything. It's because let me see. Here the title and data ID. Let me see if I am sending anything to my remove function. So I'll take this and find file this data.title, this data.id. Ah, right. I am having it in the wrong place. I'm having it on the icon instead of the button itself. Should be here. That was my mistake. Alright, I think that one now should work. Alright, let's see if that one works out. So I'm going to bring back the model again. I'll change the photo to this one, and I'll try to remove it. It's show photo. I have it now. And I think it's the other way around. Show photo is the one with attribute, and photo itself is the file that we want to remove. So I'll reload again, bring in the model, change the image, bring in this one, change, remove, and there we go. Now that's how to deal with the image. Now I can change to this file. If I feel like I don't want this one, I can choose another one. And if I feel like I really don't need an image for my employee completely, I'll just remove it completely. So that's how to bring in the image and remove it if we don't want it, or to change to another image if we prefer another kind of image. And we're going to stop here in this video. When we come back, we're going to now write the logic to validate our data on the server side. Thank you very much for being with me on this one. I'll see you on the next one.